What's going on, y'all? Bluff City here with another video. Breaking news out of Dallas, Texas. Some deranged lunatic went up to the ICE detention center in Dallas, Texas, and tried to turn the entire building into Swiss cheese, but he failed. He actually ended up shooting. There's two people that have been shot, including him. There's four people shot in total. That includes the shooter, but the shooter now is dead, and they have him identified. It's he was in his 20s. Yeah, he was a 29-year-old. But I don't want to spoil too much of it. I'm gonna let this video play here, and make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss another video. And here we go.
All of this connected to a shooting there at a Dallas ICE facility. I do want to take you out to a live look that we do have. This is an aerial image that is coming in from our Fox 4 Dallas team as they fly overhead. A very active scene still hours and hours later. Here is what we know so far. At least one detainee fatally shot at that ICE facility. Two others wounded by a sniper on a nearby rooftop. That information coming from Dallas police and the FBI, giving an update after some confusion over the number of dead, saying that two people are deceased, and that does include the shooter. They are very focused on this vehicle that you see right there on your screen. It is parked right next to a staircase of sorts that does lead to the roof of one of the buildings right there near that ICE facility. One thing I want to do is pop this up on your screen. We showed this just a bit earlier, but it was posted by Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, and you can see bullet.
Man, anti-ice. The fact that he would engrave that on bullets, that shows you the type of person he is. Just like the dude who shot Charlie Kirk. Now they wanted to paint him as a right winger, but if you looked up how that dude was really living, who he was living with, he had a trans girlfriend, for crying out loud. Yeah, he was no right winger. The rest of his family members was, but not him.
Casings. Now, officials did explain that the shooter was on the rooftop of a nearby building and opened fire, reportedly into a van that was transporting ICE detainees. The FBI, during a news conference, confirming this was, quote, an act of targeted violence, and that those anti-ICE messages were found on the shell casing. Again, you see it right there on your screen as you look to the second one there from the right. It does say in blue, anti-ICE. Police say that they were alerted. It was around 6:40 a.m. local time this morning to reports of that shooting at that ICE.
Let me know in the comments what bullets those are specifically, because I've seen in the comment section of this video, they said they got it wrong. So if you're an expert on firearms and ammunition, please let me know what type of bullets those are without a shadow of a doubt.
Facility in Dallas. Investigators adding that the sniper died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head as law enforcement approached. Now, we do not have any information so far about the shooter, the sniper here, who was involved in this attack. Again, here is what we know. One ICE detainee has died, two others critically injured, and the suspect also dead. We also have this post coming in just a short time ago here from Secretary Christine Noem with the Department of Homeland Security. It says, for months, we've been warning politicians and the media to tone down their rhetoric about ICE law enforcement before someone was killed. These horrendous killings must serve as a wake-up call to the far left that their rhetoric about ICE has consequences, comparing ICE day in and day out to the Nazi Gestapo, the secret police, and slave patrols has consequences. The men and women of ICE are fathers and mothers, sons and daughters. They get up every morning to try and make our community safer. Like everyone else, we just want to go home to our families at night. The violence and dehumanization of these men and women who are simply enforcing the law must stop. We are praying for the victims and their families. Again,
man, you cannot tell these deranged lunatic leftists a goddamn thing. What they believe is what they believe, and they will push this shit to the moon to get their point across by any means necessary. It is sad, dude. What she's saying is 100% correct. The rhetoric is absolutely nuts, but it's not going to stop them. It's not going to stop them, because just telling them to stop, that's not a language they understand, unfortunately.
That statement here coming in from Secretary Kristi Noem with the Department of Homeland Security. Dan Bongino, the Deputy Director of the FBI, saying the FBI is fully engaged in conjunction with our state and federal law enforcement partners at the crime scene there in Dallas. Now, we also have some live looks here coming in from our different crews that are out there. This one a little bit kind of cutting in and out, but you can see just how many people do remain there on the scene as we are just hours removed from the situation. Do want to bring in Randy Sutton, retired police lieutenant and founder of the Wounded Blue, to discuss really everything that took place this morning. Randy, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Sure thing. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I do want to start by asking you kind of a broad question here, as we do have that news conference that took place just about an hour ago. We played it for our viewers live and uninterrupted. What do you make of the information overall that has been released and the information that has not been released?
Well, this is a very dynamic scene. You have a sniper, shooting at this ICE facility, and it's a very confusing scene. There's a lot of chaos going on, trying to figure out, is there one shooter? Is there two shooters? Who was hit? Dealing with the actual injuries of the individuals. As that is taking place, you're looking for, where is the threat at this particular moment? Now, they discovered very, very quickly the fact that the shooter, they located that shooter and found that he had neutralized himself. I don't know whether it was when he realized that law enforcement was approaching him, or he did it prior to that. That's information we don't have yet. But
he just didn't want to go to prison. I mean, that's the only reason he would take his own life. He didn't want to go to prison because he knows there's no way he can finesse his way out of that. He did not want to go to prison. He's like, fuck it. I'll just take my own life and call it a day. It is what it is.
The chaotic nature of this scene is very, very dynamic. You have multiple victims. You have the threat level that has to be ascertained and diminished as much as possible, and now you have the investigative process. But let's look at this from a different perspective. This was a targeted attack. If you look at the correlations between this and with suicide bombers, it's all about what level of violence was utilized. In this particular case, it was a rifle. What you saw from that photograph, those weren't shell casings. That was an actual clip from a semi-automatic rifle that is utilized for. Those are 223 rounds that are high-powered rifle rounds. And so the fact that was left there, that was a message. This is terrorism. This is terrorism at every level. The fact that he shot into the van, we're going to have to try and figure out, did he believe that was a transportation van transporting ICE officers? Because clearly his intent wasn't to kill detainees. His intent was to kill law enforcement officers from ICE. So, this is still in its very early stages, and there's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
And as we take a look at that, we were just, referring to the situation there where it does say anti-ICE, and you definitely just touched on this, but going a little bit further into all of that, what will investigators do with this right here to kind of work to figure out a motive, all of that? Again, you're seeing the words anti-ICE. We heard from investigators as they said that this was a, quote, act of targeted violence. They found the messages. So what do they do further by looking at this? Where does this kind of go from here?
Well, as I said, this investigation is in its infancy. There's going to be, if you look at how they're going to conduct this investigation, first of all, there's going to be the forensic analysis. That's going to be the scientific approach to the scene itself. They're going to be gathering evidence. They're going to be looking for DNA that will be on those rounds on the rifle. They'll be looking at the scene itself to determine what evidence needs to be gathered. Now, remember, they're not looking at a prosecution for this individual because he's dead. But they will be looking to see, are there any other people that are involved in this targeted terrorist attack? Did this? I mean, nobody lives in a vacuum. We've seen this, play out many, many times. That people like this like to share the information. They're doing this because they want attention. They commit these acts of violence because they are trying to bring attention to their cause. And this is
Absolutely. I'm gonna leave it right there. This whole thing's about 22 minutes long. I don't want to, play the entire thing. I'll probably just leave the link if you want to watch this without me stopping it and all that junk. But what we know so far about this individual, I take it he was a radical leftist, just like the Charlie Kirk shooter. Probably believed in communism, Marxism, things like that. Probably very anti-American. Didn't like the United States. Couldn't afford to leave, but wanted to do shit like this just to make a quote unquote make a name for himself, I guess. And he absolutely got what he wanted. It also cost him his own life since he took his own life. So he pretty much sacrificed himself to have his name put out there in the name of being a far radical leftist and being anti-ICE. Apparently he was pro illegal immigration. If I were to just guess, okay, we don't know all that information just yet because this is still a fresh, brand new story. Everything just happened recently, so they're still figuring out everything they want to about this guy. If there's more information out there, I'll definitely do an update video on this. But if I were to really just put my finger on it, I really do think this guy that did this was probably been radicalized by left-wing propaganda. Probably hated the fact that Donald Trump won the election. He couldn't handle it, couldn't take it. Said, it probably looked at the dude who took Charlie Kirk's life and be like, hey, if he could take Charlie Kirk's life, hell, well, I really hate ICE. Let me go ahead and try to fuck with the ICE detention center here in my city, and he pulled it off. He pulled it off. Engraved messages on bullets and shit like that. All that wild ass shit. He did it. He got his name out there. Now the world knows exactly who the fuck he is. And we'll know more about him soon enough once the authorities do a deeper dive on this guy and figure out more information on him. And I don't think that's gonna be pretty. I don't think it's gonna be pretty at all. But with that being said, I'm gonna end the video right there. Thank y'all so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the link in my description so you can follow me on other social media platforms as well as donate to me directly via Cash App or PayPal. And if you do so, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I will also shout you out in my next video. That is a promise. So until next time, please, please, please be safe out there. Check on your loved ones. Have a good one. Peace.